What's going on, guys? Steel here, and today I wanted to talk about the R3 T20. Recently we just had some VR changes that were implemented as of the 24th of April, in which the R3 once again went up in battle rating to 6.0. Now, for those of you that may not have been around, the R3 T20 when it was originally added was an absolute menace. If you don't believe me, I have a few videos on the R3 which I will link here in the description. Go check those out. Now, the R3 when it was added was a very, very low battle rating. It was BR 3.3, I believe, or 3.7. It had a full stabilizer, it had armor-piercing tracer instead of HVAP, which it does now, in contrast to a similar BR counterpart of it, which was the M42 Contrario. The M42 is basically Italy's Whirlwind. However, at the time, it did not have very much ammo economy, which, to be fair, it still doesn't. But most importantly, the M42 is supposed to be belt-fed. And for years, it was proven that it was supposed to be belt-fed. However, Gaijin, for some reason, decided not to change it up until, I think, the last year or so. So obviously, nobody was going to use the M42. The R3 with its full stab was able to obliterate any aircraft out of the sky. Aircraft at BR 3.3 are not particularly fast, so it was very easy to drive full speed, shooting at any aircraft in the sky and hitting them with relative ease. Of course, everybody was going to use the R3 for tank killing because it's small, fast, has an autocannon with a high rate of fire, good penetration, and good post-pen damage. Also, at this point in time, War Thunder events required you to do certain things for a task to unlock the star for progression towards an event vehicle. And one of these was to capture a point, the other was to get a certain amount of kills in a game, and the other, I believe, was just to get a certain amount of kills overall. There was also like assists or repairs or something like that. But mainly, the R3 could do the three primary of getting a certain amount of kills a game, certain amount of kills in total, and caps. And obviously, because of this, the R3 slowly raised in BR. For some reason, instead of just bulk raising it to a higher BR like 5.7, it went from 3.3 to 3.7 to 4.0 to 4.3 to 4.7, and then ultimately to 5.7, and now, of course, as of the recent BR changes, 6.0. However, on top of battle rating raises, the R3 received two very important nerfs. One, its stabilizer no longer works at full speed. As a matter of fact, the R3 really doesn't have much of a stabilizer for it at all once it starts moving. It's basically just a pseudo shortstop stabilizer. So, of course, you can't shoot planes down going 60 miles an hour, which is fair and understandable. However, the R3 lost the APT belts and it was replaced with HVAP. Now, if you know anything about HVAP, you'll know that, well, HVAP just sucks. The HVAP belt doesn't really pen that much, and when you're in a BR range like 5.7, most of the targets you're going to be facing are heavy tanks or things like the Panther. When it comes to anything Russian, if it's a heavy tank, you simply won't be able to kill it. The T-34s, you can knock out the driver point blank and then blast the rest of the turret crew. But if it's a vehicle that's open top or a thinly armored light tank or in any way the crew is exposed, it'll be fairly easy to knock that vehicle out. Now, the R3, of course, isn't really a problem like it used to be. The R3 can die fairly easily to small arms fire, it fights way tougher enemies, and it can also just be strafed from the sky fairly easily. The R3 also lost something that I forgot to mention, which was the ability to just fire all of the ammunition all at once. It got its ammunition placed into smaller boxes, so it can only fire 120 rounds at a time, as well as suffering from the overheat mechanic. So this brings me to the main part of this video. I believe that the R3 should be moved up in BR, have its full stabilizer returned, as well as be given an APDS belt. Now, I have a few things to point out. First thing being that the Weasel 1A4 is BR 7.3, also labeled as a AAA, and has the ability to have scouting as well as access to a Sabo belt. The same thing applies to the Japanese Sub 1-2. It has access to the DM63 Sabo belt, is 5.3, as well as also being labeled a AAA. However, the Sub 1 is on a very large chassis, so it's not really the best, but you get my point. Now, the cannons are a little bit different. The Germans and the Japanese have access to the RH202, while the R3 has access to a 20mm Oerlikon. Now, I went on and asked the War Thunder Italian community Discord about information regarding it, and I was sent a link to a website that basically just lists out different NATO weaponry and the ammunition that they use, with the R3's cannon being one of them. Now, I do believe that there was an old forum post discussing the R3's ammunition as well as some other Italian vehicles that were suggested that use similar cannons, and the information is out there, I just haven't been able to actually find it myself. Anyways, the R3 should be able to carry some form of a Sabo belt. Now, this is just a little side note, but I actually used to use the R3 in a higher BR to grind the Italian tech tree when it came out. At 6.7 to 7.0 area, there was still a lot of American light tanks at the time. However, that doesn't really seem to be the case much anymore, so I can't really farm M56s and M18s and Bulldogs and all that stuff like I used to. But getting back on track, I do believe that the R3 should be raised in battle rating to at least 7.3 for now. We've seen that with the Fox in particular. The Fox was already raised to BR 7.7 because it was just too strong at 7.0. Along with the BR raise, I believe that the R3 should be given scouting similar to the Weasel and just function as a wheeled counterpart of the Weasel. Neither of these tanks are technically an anti-air, they're both light scout vehicles, but Gaijin made them anti-airs. Personally, I think they should both be reclassed as light tanks. Gaijin did similar with the Striker. The Striker was originally considered a tank destroyer, but is now reclassed as a light tank with scouting. The M18 was also a tank destroyer that was reconsidered a light tank with scouting. Now, some of you may have noticed earlier I said that the R3 should be given its full stabilizer back. However, I will concede that this point can be debatable. The R3 is very small and very fast. The R3 will outright beat the Weasel in multiple instances of getting to good positions. Unlike the R3, the Weasel doesn't actually have a stabilizer, so I could see why it's better for the R3 to not have any changes to its stabilizer. I know there are going to be people that disagree on this, but I just look at the R3 and I don't see why this vehicle is even the BR that it is or in the state that it is in general. I've discussed the topic with some people and they said that it would just be fine if it got the APT belt back, but personally I don't really think that the R3 should be in the BR range that it is anyways. Again, comparing it to the Weasel, it's fast, it's small, and it can hit pretty hard and is very good at taking out low flying props. However, the Weasel is at a BR where it doesn't really deal with that, but the R3 does, and arguably the R3 is even better because the Weasel does have rotation limits. Hey guys, post-editing Steel here. So I went back to the Italian community Discord and checked some of Nico's announcements, and apparently there is one photo of this Fiat 6614 hull with the similar auto-blended turret, however it has a 25mm in it, similar to that of the Sidem 25. Now, I would have liked to talk about alternate Italian AAs, but I felt like this video was already getting too long for my taste, so without going deeper into that, I just want to leave that out there as an idea for an alternative vehicle that would fit at 7377. Apologies for interrupting the video here at the end, but I figured I'd just put it out there. Thanks again. As for all of the other Cold War SPAA in the game, unfortunately the R3 was really the precursor and kind of led the charge behind Gaijin just adding in all kinds of SPAAs that really don't have any business being at the battle ratings that they are. So just because I'm talking about the R3 in this video doesn't mean that I don't think other vehicles of similar caliber don't deserve the same treatment. So in my opinion, I don't really think the R3 would become an overpowered menace again due to the fact that at a battle rating like 7.3 or 7.7, it would have to worry about jets, way more small arms fire, and a lot more autocannons. Anyways guys, that's pretty much it for today. As always, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Steel, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.